So this session is building a commercial Teams application in the Microsoft Store. All right, so just very quickly, in the chat, can everybody just raise their hand if they can see my screen? Just want to make sure it's sharing. It's being shared. Okay, Heather, great stuff. Thank you for your cooperation. Right, about me, my name's Peter Ward. I'm the founder and CTO of Soho Dragon. We're basically a New York Microsoft Gold partner. My skills are basically SharePoint, Office 365. I've co-authored 4 SharePoint books, and I've written for Forbes magazine. I also organized the SharePoint Saturday in New York City. And I first started using SharePoint in 2003. So yes, almost 20 years ago. I live in New York and I'm very much old school. And I basically, when I say old school, I like my projects on time and on budget. That's really what I try to do on that. Okay, introductions. Okay, in the chat, Heather, are you still there? Okay, she's on mute. Okay, hi. Is it possible to have the participants able to chat or not?
I can do that. Hold on.
Absolutely. And if they can interrupt me, that's even better, actually.
Yeah.
Okay, but I should be careful.
Do you want them to be able to speak to you?
Absolutely, absolutely. I want to make it as interactive, and engaging as possible.
Let's make this interesting.
Yes, it gives me an opportunity to for them.
All right, mics are enabled.
All right, fantastic. Okay, then, so quick introductions to everyone. To everyone, there's a chat window in Teams, so feel free to just just say hello. Just very quickly, I would just say, what are people's job titles? Are we talking about developers, PMs, architects, BAs? So in the chat, can people just type in what their day-to-day job is? Solution architect is always a very popular one in the SharePoint world, I have to say. Okay, I don't think anyone's got the chat option, actually, I have to say.
It takes a while to respond, usually.
All right, so let's just carry on. Okay, so therefore there's it's a QR code, top right, left-hand corner. Just let me know what city you're in. So if you've got your cell phone in your hand, scan that QR code and let me know what city you're in. I am actually speaking in Lithuania right now. We're actually in one of our offices in Lithuania. So this is a true international SharePoint Saturday, or Chicago M665. So everyone just wants to quickly scan that with their cell phones. And the results come up on screen, so it's all fully interactive. Okay, Munich, all right, okay, very good. That's probably a good 7-hour, no, probably about a 12-hour drive, I suspect. Heather, where are you located? As I can talk to you, old-fashioned.
I'm in Hoffman Estates, which is a suburb of Chicago.
Okay, all right. Cold there, perhaps?
There we go. There it showed up.
Hoffman Estates.
It is really cold. It is freezing in my office right now.
All right, okay. Of course, the person who said Munich is not exactly a city. Oh, Munich is a city, actually. Yes, it is. All right, okay, Kara, we'll give you 5 more seconds on this. All right.
And the chat is enabled, by the way. We do have an answer from the
okay. Right, so these are some slides before I really kick into the presentation. This is the supporting a charity of public schools, okay, throughout the Children's First. Again, QR code, Children First, great charity, particularly for Chicago Public Schools. And they've actually been a receiver of charity for, I think, last year as well, I believe. So do take a moment for this to scan that, make a donation. And also to help us improve the conference, there's another QR code. This is a QR code session, as you can see. Okay, and also we'll say a massive thanks to the sponsors. If it wasn't for the sponsors, the raffle prizes wouldn't be what they are. Just a few comments on this, like Veeam, phenomenal backup, restore, we use that ourselves. Same as AvePoint as well. Quest, they are great as well. And QuizCon been around for years and years and got great products for web parts as well on that. Okay, that's sponsors. Right then, and these are the raffle giveaways. Amazon, of course, Xbox attendee, you know, keep great presents there. Right, this is the agenda, okay? So let's just take a few quick moments on the agenda, okay? What I'm going to talk about is who, you know, it's basically who I am, what makes me qualified to speak about the subject, what's in scope, what's out in scope. I could do an entire 2-day workshop on this topic, so I'm cramming everything into about the best part of an hour, which I started 10 minutes late. So I'm going to be at a bit of a tempo pace. Why build products in teams and put them into the store, technical fundamentals, talk about lessons learned, Roblox, store submission process, third-party payment tools, no-code, low-code approaches, PostLife Support, okay, and basically how to turn about what you're going to hear in the next 45 minutes into reality. Right, so these are some links, okay, which I mentioned, and this is the presentation deck will be available for the this will be available to all the attendees, okay, and this is also going to be on my blog as well. Okay, this is very much conversational style, so if you want to take you off mute, that's fine. Jean, Raina, I believe it's Hector. I presume you're from Munich, perhaps with that kind of a name. Right, session objective. Right, when it comes to product development, what I'm going to do is it's very different to perhaps consulting. Okay, so really this session prevents you, the idea is to prevent you doing the scenic route to product development, so you can get your product as a go-to-market methodology as quick as possible on this. Okay, so who am I and what makes me qualified to speak about this subject? So Soho Dragon is basically a New York Microsoft-based consulting firm. So we're selling billable hours here rather than products. And we've actually spun up some products from some of the actual work that we've done. So I will be mentioning these products, and I'm mentioning this to put this into context rather than sort of say promote these. That's not the objective at all on this. And let's just like say, there was a lot of lessons learned here, and you know we've got a very talented team. We've got 3 MVPs on staff, including myself, and I was a bit surprised about the time and effort it took to get products into the market. It took time, how much long it actually took to actually get products downloading and consumed by customers. Because it's one thing building a product, but it's also another thing selling it in a store and actually having people basically downloading it and actually consuming it as well. So there's a lot of lessons learned, and let's just say that, putting it mildly, there's a few scars on the back of my back. Right, these are the products I will be mentioning, as I mentioned. Right, what's in scope is about market acceptance, process methodology, and figuring out the value, and post-product support. Okay, so I'd like to put this presentation into context. Like I said, we are a consulting firm. We're not really a product firm. 99.9% of our business is based on consulting. Okay, and there's no funding behind us as well. And we don't have outside investors, okay, just as well, because if people are pouring money, investors really want to know when they're going to get their money back. And also, when we're starting building out these products, we are not trying to do like a 10x scaling exercise. So companies which have got products like Uber and Dropbox, they're sort of got serious amounts of investors behind them, and they're looking for hockey stick sales, 10x scaling, all of those VC buzzwords. That is not really what Soho Dragon has done, and that's not what I'm going to pretend we've done as well on that. And we don't use sort of phrases like hockey stick sales in any of the presentation, or let this be an accelerator. Okay, that's a very all the buzzword terms, runway burn rate. Who has not heard of these terms like runway burn rates? Who in terms of, can you sort of like, if you put a surprised face if you've not heard of any of those options? Okay, like a surprise thing in your teams. Okay, Heather, what terms have you not heard here?
Soho Dragon.
That's the name of our company, actually. Okay.
I know, I haven't.
Okay. So I was referring to the phrases. On it. That's
no,
what I just said.
Sorry. Let's be like an accelerator.
Okay, so accelerator. Okay, so what accelerator is basically when VCs are piling money in, and they're also bringing in like incubator ideas or people to basically get your product past the finishing line as quick as possible on this. So that's kind of like, you know, they would say invest the money and they'll put the product, or they'll get the team in a incubator, and they will basically use their network to get clients, client acquisition, QA, marketing, and everything. So it's almost like an oven-ready approach on this. So you've got organizations like All Starts, Disrupt is a good example of this, where everyone's competing for their product, and you've got investors basically who are then basically who want seed investment in the product and your company to get this. To get your product in scaling, because the thing about consulting, as you know, is basically you bill out, you do your billable hours for the month, and then if all goes well, 45 days later you get your money from that consulting gig. In product development, it's not like that. You build the product with no revenue, and then you get the product in the marketplace, and then you have to spend money on marketing and salespeople to start trying to get income coming in. So it's much more. So in terms of risk and return, it's much higher. That's why there's a burn rate. Is because you've got no revenue coming in, and so you're forecasting to the investors. By the way, this is when it goes live, we're going to hit this. He's going to hit these revenue goals, even though you've got no real track record that you will hit these revenue goals. Okay, and that's really what the whole thing about Silicon Valley. Okay, great show on that. Okay, that show's got every single VC gag you could possibly imagine, right? Out of scope in this presentation are things like blitz scaling, product SEO, coding methods, coding principles, and affiliate programs. All very good, very useful, but like I said, I've only got like about an hour to really sort of like distill like about 9 months worth of say wisdom from our product development and what we learned into this session. Okay, so we talk about people's job titles. I haven't. Heather, can you see the chat from the job titles?
The chat from the job titles?
Did anyone answer their job titles?
No. Oh wait, okay. Yeah, yes.
All right.
We have lead consultant, aka solution and platform architect.
Okay. All right. Okay. Anything else? That's quite a generic term, solution architect. Any other people? Any other folks who want to diverge in this? All right. No problem. No problem. Right. Okay. So let's just look at the traditional third-party product landscape. So these companies have been around for years. We all know these people. Bamboo Solutions and Quizcom are your typical small purchase where there's not really a sales team. You basically go to the website and swipe a credit card, you download the product and you install it, and you are good to go on this. And they were working on-prem, and now they're in the Office 365. When you look at larger purchases, things like Nintex, AvePoint, Live Tiles, these are more solutions. They cost an incredible amount more. So therefore, there's a salespeople process and there's marketing. There's a lot of marketing effort. If you look at the small products, they're more bit products for normally a wider solution. So you might have an invoicing solution, and you might have done it with Power Apps, and you need to say the Quizcom alerts feature, and that's part of the solution for the whole wider solution. In terms of things like Live Tiles, it's I need an intranet, and therefore I'm going to use Live Tiles. So basically, it's the full-on solution. Same with things like Nintex. They're basically a workflow engine, and they are basically it's a solution. I've got an invoicing application. I will use Nintex for that application. So that's this is an important point, because it's not just building the product. It's almost like, how do you actually sell the product and get it into market? Okay, so the idea behind this is friction and shear force reaction. And this is sort of where there's a little bit of a challenge with any companies. When if you're selling to big enterprise companies, there's there's purchasing decisions, vendor onboarding, and what I've sort of experienced with big companies, they would rather have a developer develop something for 3 months rather than buy a product which could implement the whole thing within 30 days. And that's just you could say the madness of how big companies do their purchasing in IT. Whether that's madness, but that's generally how they actually work. So if you are a small company like Quizcom, you do not want to be spending three discovery calls, filling out a 20-page vendor document here, and then waiting for purchasing to purchase the product in 45 to make a decision to do it in 45 days, because you'll find that you'll just run out of money. So therefore, you've got to basically have a balance between friction. There's a friction to the sale. You need to understand where that friction is in the sale. So what we did was basically in our website with our products, you can download the web part, you can swipe a credit card, and you are good to go. With small companies, that's exactly what they do. With bigger companies, they won't do that. They want to speak to people. They want to ask. They want to have more insurance. They'll ask so many more questions. And admittedly, they're going to spend more money on the product. Okay, but they are going to ask a lot of questions. So you need to understand who is your target audience. If it's smaller companies, the purchasing process will have smaller steps. Okay, if it's a larger company, it will have more steps. But whatever you're positioning that product, you need to minimize the friction of the product as much as you can. This is why we have a trial version. I'm sure this is probably why Bamboo and Quizcom have trial versions as well. Is they say, well, we want to see demos, etc., etc. Why didn't you install the product free of charge for 30 days? Okay, then you can see the product. Okay, and that's what we actually do, because if you're not even going to install it free of charge on a trial server, chances are you're kicking tires. So we actually use that as a bit of a sales filter in our sales process, where I don't want to do demos. It's because I have to schedule the demos. I have to get somebody on to do the demo. I'd rather have the person install it in a trial server free of charge. Okay, therefore they've asked questions, they've spent a bit of effort, and then we'll do a quick overview of the product for an hour on that. So therefore that basically increases the value of the prospect. Okay, and when I talk about prospects, we're talking about somebody who's a buyer with buyer intent, who's got the ability to actually install the product in the environment. Right. Make your products easy to buy, okay, than your competition, and you're going to find your customers buying them from you, not them. Okay, this is really what I've just said. So when we talk about these bigger companies and the solutions, they might be more complicated, but you need to basically have the consumption much easier to consume than actually other products. Else you're going to have a lot of problems in. You're going to have actually quite a few problems in basically getting traction on those sales. That's actually this is obviously a Mark Cuban quote here, and it's not necessarily profound, but if you ever look at Shark Tank, they're always asking the questions in terms of how do you get the thing scale, how do you get traction, and that's exactly what you've got. Developers were great at developing, but understanding the sales process is not quite what the developers are actually particularly great at. Right, why build a Teams product for the store? Okay, so let's just talk about this. Microsoft's encouraging partners to do this, okay, to submit their products in the store, because Microsoft have got the store. They want to have, I know it's nowhere near the Apple Store or the Google Play Store. Okay, they want to get as many partners submitting their products into the store. Okay, and obviously it's a catch-22 situation where It's like nobody's going to use the store unless you've got products in there. But of course, partners are going to say, well, I don't want to necessarily put my products in the store because I've got no customers in there. So it's a catch-22. So Microsoft are encouraging their partners. If you are a managed Microsoft partner, I don't know if anyone's working is a managed Microsoft partner. Heather, are you do you work for yourself or do you work for a partner? Are you a managed partner?
I work for myself.
Okay, so you're probably okay. So this is an interesting concept. So obviously you're below the radar for Microsoft. I'm assuming, even though you probably were very well connected, you don't really have a formal relationship with a Microsoft managed partner, do you? Or Microsoft reps, I'm assuming. Is that correct? Is that a fair statement? Okay, and so the Microsoft reps are not only just encouraging people to put it in the store, but they love products that cause Azure consumption. Okay, if you're causing an Azure consumption, a Microsoft rep will call you back very quickly. Okay, because that's how they get compensated on this. So that's really where Microsoft is going on this. And in fact, everybody, all the platform providers are doing this. With Salesforce, with the Sales Exchange as well. So that's really how things are going. Right. The cost of the client acquisition reduces tenfold. Okay, it's because the product is in the store and the customer can find you and your products rather than having to do SEO, having to find you at trade shows, etc. So it's a totally different business model. Okay, and again, if you're selling a product for, I don't know, $200 a month or whatever, you are going to have you need to shift a lot of volume here to justify your costs going to a trade show. Sales teams are very, very expensive. Okay, and you can also filling in a niche in the client expectations with the product delivery, where a client, before they've spoken to you, they've done a lot of research on Google. Okay, they really want to understand the product. So if you've got a product which is easy to explain, a couple of videos, okay, and they consume it, that's what clients actually absolutely love as well. I actually sometimes like it, when I'm installing stuff in SharePoint, I actually don't want to speak to people because I have to schedule a call next week. I'm in a buying mood. Okay, I want to get this done by today and make a decision by today. This idea where you're installing something on an iPhone, where basically you download, you install, you register, you swipe your credit card, and you're good to go. That's really what people are wanting on their client expectations. Science project installations are just like so passe. 24/7 storefront. Remember, okay, it doesn't matter where you are in the world, you can download. You can download the product, and that's exactly what we've had. We've got customers from Bangladesh to Brooklyn, Chile to Chelsea, Sierra Leone to Soho. Okay, it's around the world. You can't just do that with boots on the ground with a traditional sales force on that. And of course, this allows you to create very much of an unfair competitive advantage, where the fact that you're selling 24 hours a day, and your customers are bypassing the traditional channels, traditional barriers to entry, okay, because they can actually get hold of your information from the product, sample your product information without you having to attend expensive trade shows or even having a true sales force. Okay, now another reason why you want to have your product in the store, okay, you're differentiating with yourself with competition. A lot of the big vendors, a lot of big consulting firms, they at the moment don't really have their products in store. So if you're getting your products in the store, then you're going to get yourself in a pretty good a good place to get in front of the customers and at least have conversations with them. Global sales reach, that's exactly what I just mentioned. Right. This is your sales function, which we've talked about. Many people talk about this. Who has not recognized this sales function? Heather, I'm assuming you must recognize this as well, totally, aren't you?
I do recognize it.
Okay, so we threw out this completely out of the window. We realized that this is taking too long. Okay, so what we basically wanted to introduce was we said no, this is absolutely the sales process is actually too long. We actually switched our product sales focus from the funnel to the flywheel. Okay, so what we would do was we attracted the customers, okay, in the Microsoft, in the store, okay. They really engage them by downloading it. We're getting notifications to say, oh, by the way, we've downloaded it. So we're immediately talking to the decision makers, okay, because of course, a sales team has problems speaking to the decision makers because nobody picks the phone up anymore, okay, and nobody really responds to email. But if they've just downloaded your product, they know who you are, and also they're interested in your product. So you've attracted them, you're engaging them, they like your product, okay? And then of course, you're on the vendor list, and then of course, other projects can spin out of this, okay? And that's exactly what we've actually done. And that's why you want to have products in the store, because you can actually get that traction and get that sales process spinning for the customer. Technical fundamentals. Right, okay, so this is, I'm not going to talk about this in a big way, partly because there's a lot of documentation on this. This is a link into LinkedIn, okay, and the Microsoft Store. I'll put this in the chat actually for everyone right now. Okay, I don't necessarily want to like regurgitate how my chat's not available here. Okay, so I won't be putting it in the chat. Okay, so basically this this configuration, this guy talks about how to actually get your product into the store pretty easily on that. So that's what he's doing. And there's a ton of links on Microsoft. These are links here, which is all my presentation of basically how to package your team, how to package your product up and get it into the teams, the requirements, GDPR, okay, things like disclaimers, how to do what you call it, I approve of this, and how to have the correct language. Right, lessons learnt on this. Okay, firstly, when you're building a product, do not compete with Microsoft. You're never going to win that game. You actually never win that. So look about what they're doing on the roadmap. Okay, because there's not much point in you spending 6 months building a product only for Microsoft to come out and release something very similar to what you've got, which is out of the box, which is like, you must be absolutely horrified to do that. So look at what they're doing on the roadmap as well and leverage that. So that's why it's vertical solutions versus products horizontal. Okay, and the installation has got to be totally seamless. So dumb down with code checks. Okay, remember, never underestimate the stupidity of end users and IT admin. Nobody reads anything anymore. This is it's an astonishing fact, is that you will have a 2-page installation guide, which is of which probably about 50% of this is very clear products, screenshots of how to actually install the product. Okay, of which someone will download it and then they'll say, well, how do we install the whole thing? So you really need to dumb down the instructions. So literally, just as with an iPhone app, if you're going to install it, it's like someone's going to spend about a minute installing it, else they're going to lose interest. It's not that bad, but it's getting towards that, so it needs to be super simple to actually use on that. Right, okay, let's just talk about the developer mindset. Okay. Right, so developers have got great attitude, that you look at their behavior, their actions, their results, and their performance. One of the things that we sort of noticed on this, where I've actually put this into things like estimates and what their attitude is. So typical SharePoint developers are very good at doing some perhaps enterprise solutions, perhaps doing estimates. But when it comes to building a product, where I would say there's more like an open landscape, this is, let's just say, things could be a lot better. And it's almost a bit like, just as when you start your SharePoint consulting career, you learn how to do estimates together. Somebody needs to teach people how to put estimates together for products. So basically, we've got, like I said, we've got MVPs on staff. We've got a top shelf talent of developers. Okay, and what I noticed was developers, they are absolutely useless at estimating. What I could put a science behind their estimates. They had to multiply it by pi. So if they said 100 hours, that would really be 316 hours. All right, on that. That was basically the science I could put behind the estimates. And these people are very talented, great developers. Okay. Do not have innovation. Okay, so when we talk about this, a developer will sort of like say, well, this is how we're going to do it. Okay, rather than sort of saying, well, this is a product, this is the technology landscape. Okay, this is how we do post-live support, product support. Developers don't seem to do that, and they might want to architect the perfect solution rather than, which is technically fantastic, but rather than a solution that will work for a product which is dumbed down and will actually sort of meet the business needs. Okay, and of course developers will love to develop. Okay, and they will love to develop in their Visual Studio, their M65, SPFX web parts, React framework. The moment a developer goes out of that sort of like these comfort tools, it's a little bit unnervy for them actually. Let's just say I had to do some Dr. Phil sessions with some of our developers, okay, because they were using technologies which were way outside the Microsoft typical stack or what they would learn from traditional Microsoft conferences. Okay. Over-engineering the solution. Okay, that was something which, when I saw some of these estimates very, very high, I would be asking, why is this so high? And you realize, well, why do we need that? And so therefore, it might not be the perfect solution. But remember, when you're developing a product, you have no customers, you have no revenue on this. People would say, well, this thing won't scale. Okay, and someone said, well, we haven't got a single customer on this. Let's get 10 customers, which means we have traction. Okay, and then we can really, and I can justify spending more money on this, and then we can start re-engineering some of the product. Notice that term, re-engineering, where you are ripping out code and you're replacing it with code to scale. Okay, and I'm not saying we do a scrappy solution on this either. The technology landscape is very much beyond that M65, which is what I just mentioned. Right, conflict. This is where, I was like the product manager and I was working with developers a lot. So you really need to stay close to the developers to understand that they're not over-developing. Why are they doing this? Why are the estimates? When they start overrunning, why are they doing this? Why are they doing this? And of course, developers, they don't necessarily like to be told what to do. And of course, a developer will always like to have the good technology solution. And they will be more technical than me, but you as a product manager, you've got to come from a place of saying, right, this is the product, how we get it to the market. We have no revenue. These are the constraints that we've actually got. Okay, we can't be spending 500 hours on this when we really can do it in 100 hours. And if we have to rip, and of course the developer might say, well, that might well mean we have to replace the code if we ever scale. Okay, that may be so, but if we're going to have to replace the code when we scale, then I know I've got paying customers who can pay for that product. Okay, if you've ever released a minimum viable product, okay, which has no bugs, okay, basically you've over-engineered the product. I can tell you that. So therefore, we were the first release of one of our products, which was the PDF editor in SharePoint, allowed you to edit the PDF files in SharePoint. Okay, it had bugs, but you know what? All I wanted was traction. I wanted to get feedback from the client, or to understand again what they like, what works, what doesn't work, what they're really looking for. What is there any functionality that is feel like we've actually engineered this? So I'm not saying we don't have any QA on the whole thing. What I am saying is we basically want to get this product out the door. Okay, and if it's got bugs, we can try and fix the bugs as well on this. Perfection is the enemy of profitability. Yes, I'm doing a few Mark Cuban quotes here, but after all, he is a billionaire on this, so he's probably got something to be said on that. Let's just talk about some Roblox. Okay. Integrating into third-party solutions. So I'm going to talk about this in a bit, actually. Our payment, like SharePoint doesn't really have a payment gateway on this. We used a subscription service called Recurly, and Recurly basically, it is a subscription service that you swipe a credit card, you choose your number of users, and then every month you get billed on a credit card. So this is different to, so we say, PayPal, which is a product, okay, and a purchase like buying a t-shirt. So we've got nothing to do with, we are not a partner, we don't resell Recurly, but we looked at Recurly because it was a subscription model and that's what we wanted to do, okay, and it's got a great API. Okay. You've got to capture the errors in the submission process. So what I'm referring to, what I'm actually referring to here is that with some of the errors, okay, you're going to, people are going to email the help desk and they're going to say, oh, it doesn't work. So you've got to have meaningful errors coming up, okay, because you can troubleshoot, because you probably don't have access to the client's server environment, okay, to log and troubleshoot. So there's access, permissions issues, okay, you can't just have error. You need to have meaningful errors to sort of say access issue, okay, it perhaps capturing a library name or the user, so people can actually troubleshoot them actually self, rather than going to you all the time. Or if they are submitting the help desk ticket, you can say, hang on, there's probably an issue here because of X, Y, and Z. Okay, architecture, storing items in SharePoint lists. That's what we did. So instead of using database, we were using SharePoint lists to capture our information and our client information and the tenant information. And the reason why, because we could do a lot of this with no coding. Okay, remember, I've got no customers. Okay, and will a SharePoint list date scale with 10,000 customers hanging off this thing? Probably not particularly well, but I don't have 10,000 customers. I have 0 customers from day one. Okay, so let's just use SharePoint lists and I can do it no coding, speed to market. Okay, I've got an interface, the SharePoint lists, to the database items on this as well. And so, yeah, it's a little bit manual. It is a bit semi-automatic, but that will work fine. So I have 30, 40 customers on this. Okay, and when I've got this, I know I've got a product which is bringing in revenue. Okay, and then I can start having development conversations about budget and how do we actually do this. Coding. Okay, this is one of the, in your submission process, you kind of unclickable processes, and you need to use Microsoft redirects, and you need user-friendly errors. That is one of the store conditions. Processes. Right, the submission process into the Microsoft Store, it takes 1 to 2 weeks. So if you've got business stakeholders, just factor that into those, factor that in to say, you can't just say we're finishing the development process on Friday and it goes live over the weekend. That is not going to happen. Okay, so it's 1 to 2 weeks. Okay, make sure your infrastructure is set up, like your terms, your payment statement, or your privacy statement. Go to, I'm going to show you my website and you can copy all of the language as much as you can on that, or even hit me up on LinkedIn. Okay, need descriptions showing the value of to the consumer. Test cases. Okay, you need to have those shown, submitted to Microsoft. Detailed security compliance questionnaires. Okay, justification for saving data to other endpoints, including Microsoft Graph. Okay, so remember, you will need to justify why you're saving client data in your environment, in your database. So it's probably a good idea not to have things like credit cards or social securities numbers saved in your product, which is going into your shared environment. Okay, contact information and cropped pictures. So this is what this Microsoft submission process does. It makes it a clean product. So if you look at the products in the store, they're working products. They're not stuff off GitHub, which is like kind of works, but you have to sort of dig through the code to get the thing working. Mistakes in creating an MVP. Okay, inadequate product strategy. You need to define those endpoints. Okay, on that. Very much so. You also need to basically have things like feature overload. Okay, so try and identify, say, 10 features, core features to get the product into the store, minimal viral product, and see any interest. You know, if you start doing a lot of features, the customer will not understand the product particularly well, and that will require user training. And remember, you're selling a product for, I don't know, $50, $200, and you're gonna, you can't really afford to be doing training sessions unless that's extra. Okay, and over-engineered MVP. This is not just the product. This relates to the project strategy, but basically the developer has said, right, I built the product and this thing can scale to 10,000 users. Okay, well, like I said, if you only got sort of like 2 or 3 customers after 6 months, you've over-engineered the product. Okay, development team as well. If you're going to do a product, a minimal product, have basically 1 or 2 people on this. You don't need a development team. We all know the statistics. Well, look, if you've got 1 person and it takes 100 hours and you have 5 people, it doesn't bring the whole thing down to 20 hours a week. That just doesn't happen on this. Okay. Also, feedback. Everybody has an opinion on this. You need to do this. You need to do that. So create like a parking lot. Say that's a great idea. I really like it. We'll add that to the phase 2. Phase 2. Phase 2. Hence, you want to get the product out, in the market. Now you start doing that, and you are going to be crushing it on this. Okay, so quick quiz on this. What are people's favorite apps on their phone? Can everybody get their little QR code again on this and give me your favorite app on your phone? Interesting. Facebook, Google, WhatsApp, LinkedIn. No TikTokers here. Heather, you're not a TikToker?
No. Definitely not.
Okay. Are there any SharePoint TikTokers out there? I have to say, do you know of any?
I do not. I know that Shane Hanselman is does like a lot of development work, but not specifically to SharePoint.
Right. Okay.
Hanselman has a whole channel of TikTok. He's the guy.
I suppose part of the problem with TikTok is you have to sort of dance around a bit, don't you? I'm not sure how you can do that with like OneDrive or MS Graph.
I'm just not that
it's got to be like 30 seconds too, right? I'm not a TikToker, but.
Okay. All right. Okay. Interesting enough, like I've actually deleted Facebook off my phone actually because it was just like the novelty wore off and it was just too much noise. But WhatsApp, nobody said WhatsApp actually on that. Interesting enough.
No.
Where's Bing? Well, there is that.
Everyone makes the Bing joke.
Oh, I'm an MVP, so of course, Bing goes without saying, doesn't it?
Just
right. Okay, that's just interesting on that. Right. Okay, let's have a quick look at some of the other stuff. Okay, in the interest of time, I'm just going to skip this bit. Okay, questions. I'm just going to open this up. Any questions? I've got a few more slides to go. So, is there any burning questions here that people want me to answer? Okay.
Folks who are in the mute, you can raise your hands and we'll bring you on.
Yes, go for it. Don't hold back, guys.
This is why you get it live. Otherwise, it's what is it, $2.50 an hour? Just saying.
That's my discount rate.
It's right. That is the discount rate. I was going to say in euros, but yeah.
All right. Okay. All right. No problem. Okay. Right. Right. So I talked about a third-party payment gateway. Okay. So here you've got the customer, your online store. You could use your PayPal. Okay. Do not start in developing payment gateways. This is like you're bonkers if you start doing that. Look at third-party products out there. Like when you're building a product, you're building a SharePoint product. Okay, that's what your skill set is. Do not get involved with things like payment gateways on that. And the APIs are all there and everything. Okay, on that. And also there are tons of ecosystem tools out there which basically link into products. So things like Stripe is another good payment gateway. Okay, and again, your help desk, you got things like Zendesk to do this. Okay, you can even sell your product on the Amazon store as well, but I'm not going to go into that. Right, no code, low code approaches. We talked about getting you in the store here. Okay, we were using our database as SharePoint Lists to begin with, is because it was, firstly, I could, as a product manager, I could define the fields immediately instead of writing them down. Okay, I could see data going in. I could do a bit of the QA testing, and I could be much more hands-on. Okay, and for like a passive-aggressive product manager, that's the kind of thing I like. Okay, and of course the database UI is already built in. Okay, and like I said, you can add the fields, and I can do the reports in Power BI. I don't need to get a developer to do all this stuff. Okay, in terms of integration into payment gateways like Recurly, okay, I use Zapier for the simple flowing, adding, removing, and doing a lot of event management. All no coding activities as well, right? PostLife Support, you need a good knowledge base. Okay, which exactly what we've actually got, which I would suggest you break into these sections: development, licensing, FAQs, installation. If you really want this, for the simple reason that you want to minimize the friction, and the Q&A is all there. So people are always asking these questions. So when they email the help desk or the chat, you just refer them to the page, and it answers 95% of the questions. Right, okay. So basically, I will go through the whole, let's just go through this. This is our website here, okay? And again, this is the website, the page. Okay, these are the plans. So look at the plans here, $12 a month per person. You're gonna have to, I want as minimum user interaction on the sales process as possible, because I'm not gonna make any money on this. Okay, this is the questions here. If I scroll up here, I've got my knowledge base. This has got the videos, the frequent, the FAQs, and it answers 95% of the questions, so it minimizes that friction. Of course, good knowledge bases are all searchable. Installation is all here. Gotchas, installation guide. Okay, this goes into the catalog. This is the app file. First time users. It all answers. It's all there for you. You need this, okay, to really basically, else you're going to be slaughtered with your costs of your client acquisition. And here we got your FAQs. Okay, all of those dumb questions that people ask, and they don't, how do you do that? Where do you secure the data? Technical assumptions, all here. Okay, so as a result, it answers those questions about, oh, no, it's not on-prem. No, it doesn't work in 2010. Okay, no, it doesn't work in IE7. Okay, all of those kind of questions can all be put here on that. So with that being said, that's the end of my presentation. Okay, so with that being said, if you've got any questions, do hit me up on LinkedIn here. I'm more than happy to basically connect with me. I'm more than happy to answer questions, and I'm more than happy to, so like, if you've got a product idea, more than happy to, if you want to sound it off for me, I'll give you some great pointers and give you some price points and go to market ideas on that. So thank you for everyone's time, and I would say I'll be here just if you've got any questions, else we can prepare ourselves for the next session.